Though I wasn't alive in the early 1980s when the AIDS pandemic took hold in North America, I still feel a connection to that time when I'm here. I'm standing in front of the AIDS Memorial in Barbara Hall Park in Toronto's Gay Village. The memorial opened 30 years ago this year, in 1993, and a lot has changed since then. Today I want to take a moment to look back at the 3 decades of the memorial to better understand its impact and significance. In the mid-1980s, a gay academic, activist, and poet named Michael Lynch led a group of gay men in developing the idea for an AIDS memorial. It was a place where the community could remember those that they had lost, celebrate their lives, and grieve.
Whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're heterosexual, it affects the whole community. That's why I do what I do, because I want to educate people to understand that HIV, it's real and it's not a choice. My name is Grace, the Women's Support Program Coordinator with ACT. I work with women living with HIV, and I'm a member of the community as well. For me personally, I have this special spot for the AIDS Memorial because I have lost so many members of family to HIV and AIDS, and as someone who lives with HIV, it means a lot to me. It's not just a memorial, it's a memorial which is attached to names because of AIDS. It's somewhere where I visit and get hope. I got involved in HIV activism. I lost my partner because of HIV and AIDS, and when I started the activism, later on I got diagnosed myself, and that gives me the courage and the push to do the work I do. HIV itself comes with so much stigma. That's one thing which pushed me to be an activist. HIV can happen to anyone. People should know that no matter people are HIV positive, they can still do the work. They're still human beings. They're still part of the community. They're still part of the world. And they can make a difference and they can make change.
In my case, I didn't care enough about myself to protect myself. That's the truth. I learned that after I got HIV. I learned about self-care and self-love, which actually helped me because once I understood more about what love is, I was able to share that love with others. My name is Trevor Stratton. I work with communities, alliances, and networks. I'm also a board director of Two Spirited People of the First Nations, and I'm a board director at CAAN. The AIDS Memorial, to me, brings back faces. I can see them in the bar and disappearing one by one. What happened to Eddie? You know, what happened to Buddy? And then you'd see them in the pages of Extra magazine, pages and pages and pages and pages of people who passed in those 2 weeks. And to have that memorial there is just so important. Well, I was diagnosed with HIV in 1990 when I was 25 years old, and you know, I've been living 33 years knowing that. And back then, HIV was a death sentence. You know, it's treatable now. It was always preventable, but now it's treatable. There's a functional cure, basically. You take your pills every day and you live normal and healthy like everyone else. But it wasn't always like that. It was traumatizing. It was terrifying. I think the AIDS Memorial has been very impactful over the years. Not only for individuals who lost their loved ones and they're able to come to a place that honors their struggle with living with HIV and AIDS, you know, and that eventually took their lives. But it's also good for others to do this work, and when we're raising awareness that HIV is still here, you know, this brings us back to the history and the beginnings of when we first started seeing the virus. It's good to remember the origins, to remember the history, to remember the discrimination and the stigma. That's one of the reasons why this AIDS Memorial is so important, to remind us the mistakes we made, but also some of the successes.
The response to HIV has really demonstrated how important it is for communities to lead the response across the way in clinical issues, in scientific issues, in human rights issues, across the board. My name is Rodney Kort. I'm the Senior Director of Policy at the Ontario HIV Treatment Network. Well, I think the AIDS Memorial has had a really important function in terms of the community. And I think one of the things I remember most was in 2016 when the shooting happened in the Pulse nightclub in Orlando. There was an instantaneous movement down to the park and the memorial because there was, in the face of such hatred and slaughter, an important moment where the community came together and demonstrated its resilience. And that happened not only here, but all over the world. So I think those kinds of events demonstrate the importance of a physical location and a place like the AIDS Memorial where we can reconvene, where we can connect, and we can demonstrate community solidarity. My hope is that in 10 years' time, we'll look back on this as an artifact, as an important moment in history that can and should be remembered. It would be great to think that in 10 years there would be a cure. I think the science is pretty challenging around that, but we can at the very least get people who are living with HIV diagnosed and on treatment and ensure that people who are at risk for HIV have access to pre-exposure prophylaxis, to other prevention interventions. I'd like to see no more names on the AIDS Memorial.